Okay, guys. Hi, everyone. We're going to talk about game loops, as you guys probably guessed from looking at the screen like 50% of the time that we were here. So let's get started. What are game loops? Big question. We have big answers. We're gonna go on to an example of a loop, and that would be the college student life. So that is a pretty good loop. You start with waking up, you wash up, you go eat, you go to school, you come home, you cry, you maybe do your homework, and then you sleep. That's a pretty good loop.
And then you repeat it all over again.
Yep, and then you repeat it every day, right? Every day until you finish the school year, until you're no longer a student. That is the college life loop, right? So now that we have that, let's move on to what the rabbit hole of game loops are. What are game loops?
Yeah, so we saw a loop of a sad college student's life. So what are game loops, I guess? So a game loop is a series of activities that players repeat repeatedly in the game. And often a single game contains several like smaller game loops. And we can look at the well-known game Tetris to explain this. So the core game loop of Tetris is that you build up blocks and then clear lanes of those blocks to score points. Clearing more lines of blocks scores you more points with I think it's four for being a Tetris. Yes, and that's the game loop of that. This creates various strategies such as leaving a line open on the right or left side, okay, for the line piece to like go in and get the Tetris. Or there's also the strategy of like just clearing it one by one so you don't ever reach the top and die. So basically this game loop is you cycle between building up the blocks and like tearing them down, clearing the lines. And this is what designers call the for game loop, or the large loop that defines the entire game. In most games, there is this like one large loop, but it can also be made up of like multiple smaller loops. But they all feed back into this like for game loop. So why is a core game loop like important? And well, game loops are vital to game design as it provides players with compelling reason to play your game and stick to they're in the foundation of the game, providing a recurring structure that can help the players experience and a strong base upon which a designer can subsequently develop. And it allows the player to learn more about the game and like experiment and stuff with their own curiosity. That's why there's the saying, easy to learn, hard to master for games. These game loops like enable that. So for example, well, Mario Odyssey is like a 3D platforming game, and it really just shows off everything you can do in the game at the start. Right? Like it teach you about jumping, running, capturing at like the very first level. And that's basically all you need to know to like play the game. And, because the capture because those mechanics just allow like so much more to happen. And so with these, there's like a wide range of difficulties you can do. So like in the very first thing, you can capture the frog to jump up, or speedrunners do like a special thing to jump up without the frog, which is amazing. And this allows players to like learn at their own pace and the designers a variety of different like things they can do to hide movements and stuff. Uh, so basically, Mario Odyssey's game loop is you find a moon, you perform some insane moves to get to that moon. You reach the moon, and then you go looking for more moves, and that's the game loop of the game, and it keeps you engaged because each moon is like a new and interesting thing that you have to figure out where it is and how to reach it. And that challenges you as you go along.
Yeah. To dumb down a non-specific example within a real game, here's a familiar game loop, and that is, well, things that you guys see in RPGs all the time or any other game. You beat up bad guys, you get the XP points off of the bad guys because you beat them up, and then you use that XP to level up or buy things or whatever, if there's currency in the game whatsoever. This loop continues until you ascend into godhood or whatever the game is, right? And you are master of whatever, you've mastered the game, basically. And that is the familiar game loop. But moving on to what are clear and unclear game loops. Clear game loops grab the player's attention and they give the player something very clear, a clear goal to work towards, whether that be ascending until the very end of the game, or whether that be like it being a real clear goal of just making it to the final. But what's not unclear is when it's not aesthetically pleasing, when there's too many objectives, there's too many side quests, for example, there's not enough clarity on what the main objective is. Maybe it's too complicated. There's a couple things that make it an unclear game loop. But if you don't give the player something to work with, players have to guess, and that's not always good for these types of RPG type games, or any game for that matter. So that is the realization between clear and unclear game loops. So when you're making a game loop, make sure it's clear and not unclear. You have to ask yourself these questions. Let's move on to a short activity. What is the core loop of your favorite game? Like, name a game that you have, and in the chat you can also I will read your answers if you want to talk in the chat. But let's start with the people here. What is a core loop from your favorite game? Doesn't matter what type of game it is. Let's start over here with you.
I wanted to say League of Legends, but no, it's not a great game to start with. Maybe to Hearthstone, maybe.
Hearthstone?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the core game of this game?
I guess you build a deck, you go play PvP, like combat other players. You just can go open up like card packs and then create new decks.
Okay, so you create more deck. Okay, I see. Okay, that is a good game loop, and we're just getting more cards to get a better deck, to get faster winnings in
more diversity.
Right, diversity. Anyone here that want to answer first? Yeah.
One of your is Monster Hunter, and the game loop is literally just you hunt monsters, collect monsters, items, go back, meet better weapons, better armor, go buy monster again.
Okay, yeah. That is a standard RPG. For what game is this?
Monster Hunter.
Monster. Okay, there you go.
In Lethal Company, you're in your ship, you go down to a planet, you collect scrap,
Right.
you escape, and then you continue going to planets as the quota gets higher and higher.
Yep, and you meet quota, but then eventually it gets too high and then you die. That's pretty good. That's a good standard to have. Anyone else want to talk about their game?
My favorite game is RimWorld, which is like a colony builder, and so I was able to just sort of build up your defenses, technology,
Yeah.
deal with some kind of disaster.
Anyone able to have an answer? Yeah.
I was thinking Terraria is this kind of get the best gear you can and fight the next boss.
Yep.
And then get the best gear you can from after that
Yep.
boss. So,
Until there's a final to it. But yeah, see, those are all loops. You can get good gear, you fight boss, get good gear again, better gear, until you make it to the end of the game, right?
I like Dishonored. I guess that was it's kind of same thing though, right?
Yeah.
That the levels are lower straight. You go to this level, then the next level.
Is there a tree skill for that? Yeah. Yeah, making sure it's the right game. But yeah, see, there's that. You still have to build XP by fighting other people or whatever the way it is to get XP is. Whatever the way is, that's how you level up and that's how you create that. That is a clear goal to give the player. I'm gonna check chat real quick. There's 2 comments. Someone actually said Lethal Company as well and said, select moon, loot moon, die, not optional. Leave moon, sell loot, buy new stuff, repeat. And then someone else said Hollow Knight, enter room, explore it, kill bug, continue, maybe even find a boss or key item. So yeah, these are all good loops. And they're very clear with their goals. That's why they're very popular and people continue replaying the game. Replayability is very important. All right, moving on.
Okay, well, there are different types of loops, game loops basically, and there's 2 we're going to talk about today. They are reinforcing and balancing feedback loops. So, reinforcing, or I guess it's also known as positive feedback loop, amplify their input. An example of this is how when you do well in a game, and you get more items and like money, XP to upgrade yourself and get stronger, and then you just keep defeating more and more enemies. And that's the reinforcing loop. Note that despite it saying like positive feedback, and this being called like positive feedback loop, it's not always positive. I can't think of one on my head though. That's reinforcing the negative, I guess.
It's a good one.
I don't know, getting like spawn camps, like you
Team by actions, like when you going for teams by different people. So that's like negative.
A team fight type. I think so.
Yeah, I think just like if you invest in something but you don't get the outcome, that's kind of negative.
If it's always the same output, I guess. Well, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of something really bad, but like I was thinking of gambling. I mean, that is basically positive feedback, isn't it?
It depends.
It is positive feedback. You put in money, you get out money. Bigger money though.
You expect.
And sometimes you don't get it
It's,
back.
it's
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
I'm
sure.
thinking of one. I'm trying to think.
Then there's the other one, which is balancing or a negative feedback loop, which is counterbalances against input. Okay, so basically, like if a player is doing well in the game, then the monsters start getting harder in order to match the player's like power level down. So, and that just balances it out. So like as the player gets stronger, the monsters get stronger.
Right.
Again, since even though it says negative feedback loop, it's not always negative.
Right, it grows with the player.
Yeah, which is I would think that one's like positive, where it's like the game gets more difficult as you are able to handle that difficulty.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. If people in the chat have questions, feel free, or if people here have questions about.
Yeah, any quick questions about this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Meanwhile.
now pop quiz time. And
Okay, we'll show you a game, and then you get to tell us what type of loop you guys think it is.
yeah, so Pokemon.
Reinforcing or balancing?
Yeah, what type of loop do you think it is?
Reinforcing because the further you go, the higher level your Pokemon are, but the higher level they're just around you.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. It's a reinforcing loop. Because yeah, as you said, if you keep getting stronger in Pokemon. So what about Mario Kart? Is it reinforcing or balancing loop? Yes.
Balancing, because if you're further ahead, you're at higher risk. And if you are further behind, you have more chance to get ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Balancing.
It's a balancing loop. People can just blue shell you if you're too far away.
Yeah. There's no progression, kind of.
There's no progression.
There's no progression. You're always in the same spot.
You can go from first to last in like 3 seconds.
I'd like to say that most Nintendo games are balancing rather than reinforcing.
Well, definitely the multiplayer ones.
Yeah.
Now whatever's next? Risk of Rain. What do you guys think? Risk of Rain? If you're
Forcing.
reinforcing?
Yeah.
Well, it is balancing.
Thing.
Would you care to explain why?
It's a roguelike. That's mainly why. It's just like you're not actually, there's progression within the roguelike, within the level, but you will always go back to that point where you have nothing. And you have to continue building up only to beat the boss, and still you have to go back and do the thing all over again. So that is balancing.
There's an end?
It doesn't end. Well, I mean, yes, it does. You
To
beat the final boss.
Like there's an end to the run?
You can finish the
Oh.
game, but it doesn't like you can finish the whole run in. But then if you finish the run, you have to do it again to get more stuff unlocked. But it's like there's no progression actually. It's more like what do you unlock? Skin and stuff. That's it.
So it's just a balancing loop like that. Then. Okay, then what about the next one? Dark Souls 2. What do you guys think? Dark Souls 2. Specifically Dark Souls 2 for some reason.
I like Dark Souls too. Okay, man. I picked that.
It might be reinforcing.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, the specific example we chose was players who die return to hollow form, cutting their HP by 5% every death until cured. So that's the reinforcing part of that, the death thing.
That's messed up, isn't it?
It is messed up.
It's so mean.
How do you cure it? Like, is it like an item you need to cure that?
No. You don't.
Well, so basically, the loops can be considered like systems of the game. And whereas a system is the interaction between multiple loops. Loops and systems can be made up like all types of loops, reinforcing, balancing. I don't know if there's more. But basically, these loops make up systems, and systems make up the game. And that's how these relate, basically. And that's why loops are important.
Yeah. They're the main part of your game. A lot of the times is what shines apart from aesthetics in your game.
Now we're gonna demo something called Loopy, which is basically the like a tool of this is right there, a tool for thinking in systems. That did ship, right?
Yeah, that did.
Okay. So basically, it just allows you to like play around with like loop and simulating loops. So this one's basic basic ecological feedback loop. As the rabbits grow, foxes grow. But then when there's more foxes, like there's the foxes eat the rabbits, and then there's less rabbits. Yeah.
Yeah, so if there's less rabbits, then there's less foxes because the foxes don't have anything to eat. So it's a constant loop.
Yeah, so this is the balancing loop.
Yeah.
Versus again, next plus. And also this. So I can just make this into a plus arrow and then ignore the names, and all of a sudden it's a so reinforcing this for every thing you do, it like adds to it.
This is just a loopy simulator. Can you post the link in like the Zoom chat just in case people want to try it?
Yes, I can post it. How do I get this one? Oh, it doesn't work. Wow, does that not work?
Let me see if I can beat you to it.
I think you can beat me to it. the computer is not working out about it.
Okay, right, just.
What else can I do here? Oh, just interesting thoughts.
This is so slow. Oh my god, holy Google Slides on iPad. I'm trying to get the link, guys, and it's taking like 5 eons.
Is there like a more popular depression and anxiety? No automation in job.
Oh my god.
Why is depression and anxiety?
Is it a positive reinforcing loop? Damn.
So apparently, so apparently this is more complicated. You add more automation to the industry, yeah, there's more profits, but then there's
Extra
job loss,
revenue.
frustration, and political unrest.
Which profits create more automation and tax revenue.
Yeah. So this is just a tool that like helps visualize simple loops easier. Then like so you don't have to like go through all the mental gymnastics to figure out how the loops work. Yeah.
Sorry, I just realized, like, does this imply that higher profits means more tax revenue, or does that mean like to more taxes you have to pay?
I think that's on
Because if so, that's unrealistic. Well, let's be honest, it's a business.
this is incomplete, I think. It's like they want you to fill in the blank of or it's like there's more tax revenue and then you have like a government.
Hello, people who just
And
joined.
then I guess government, then the tax revenue goes into the government, you get more money. But then this like decreases because people aren't happy. I guess government stability. And then it's like you play it again, and it's like automation increases profit, which increases tax revenue. But then there's more political unrest, and the more political unrest, less stable the government. I think that's what it's trying to say. Or I guess it says they want to like have tax funded like job things, or I'm not even sure. Tax, I don't know. What are those checks called? Like,
What's the link on Zoom? It took forever.
like welfare for job loss or something.
Also posted in Design General. I mean, this also works for if you want to make a game, you're trying to visualize like the actual loops in the game that you're trying to build. It was a pretty good game.
Yeah, this is pretty useful visualizing loops in general.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah.
Oh, whoops, that's a big line in there. Are there other better examples? Why ads destroy our trust objectives? Why are these all like heavy?
Some of them are like straight up depression.
And one of them was straight for this is hey look, there's one that's just a positive and negative feedback loop.
More money, more problems. Price, supply. Yep.
Another example there. Cheese paradox.
Oh,
It's-
right. More cheese equals
just a
more
powerful-
holes if it's Swiss cheese, but more holes equals less cheese.
What?
So it's like a negative feedback loop, low key. Every time you get more cheese, there's more holes, but if there's more holes, then that means there's less cheese.
Yes. That is such a weird.
That's so messed up.
Is that a real paradox? Is that a real paradox? There's no way that's a real pair on the screen.
Yeah, moral of the story is don't buy Swiss cheese. That's the moral is.
No.
I have no idea why I cannot switch.
The slides are chugging in my head. I'm going to.
That's all. Any questions
Yeah, thank you for
about
coming.
apes?
It's over. It's over.
So
You can go home now unless you have questions.
it's free.
What
Let us jump into that.
That's over.
Yeah.
It's over. Thank you for coming. 5 people in chat. We're gonna kill you in a second.
Thank you everyone online for coming too.
They can't see you from.
Well, they can hear me though, right?
Hear you. But it's not the same. You just go up to the camera and say,
Oh, really? Oh, wait, what kind of PS5?
Hey, that sucks.
Like goodbye.